I died. But the most terrifying part wasn't death. It was where I went afterward. As a nun, I believed I had prepared well for that moment. I lived by my vows, ate in silence, slept beside Scripture. I loved God with everything I had. So why, when my heart stopped beating, did I not see heaven? Why did I see darkness instead? Have you ever wondered if a nun dies and is not welcomed into the light, what does that mean? I thought I understood what darkness was. I had taught about it, preached about sin, about separation from God, but I had never been inside it, until I was, not with my feet, but with my soul. That darkness had no form, no edge. It swallowed every sound, every movement, every sense of being. It felt like I was suspended in nothingness, as if the world had erased all memory of me. I called out to God. No voice answered. I tried to close my eyes in prayer. But how do you know you've closed your eyes when you no longer have eyelids? How do you know you still exist when there's no trace of you left in the world? I began to question even my faith. And then, when there was nothing left to hold on to, a voice spoke. It had no tone, no gender, only pure presence. It asked me not in anger, not needing to repeat itself. Diana, are you ready to face what you've always avoided? I don't know what I answered, but I knew one thing clearly, that darkness was not hell. And it wasn't heaven either. It was the place for those who could no longer pretend. And I, a 36-year-old nun who once believed she understood the world, was standing in that space, stripped bare for the first time, like a child on the morning of baptism. I asked, "Where am I?" And the voice replied with a sentence I have never forgotten. "This is where we bring those who are chosen to witness." I didn't know what I had been chosen to see, but I could feel something approaching, like a storm that cannot be stopped, like a truth that will not be ignored. And then I began to move, not flying, not running, but being pulled, drawn through the night by a force beyond all understanding. Would you dare look into the eyes of God as He reveals what is unfolding between Iran and Israel? I did, and I still haven't forgotten what I saw. There was no body, no weight, and yet I could feel, with startling clarity, that I was being propelled like an arrow released from the bow of God Himself. The space around me seemed to contract, then expand, then contract again. I didn't know where I was, but I knew I was being sent somewhere. Somewhere no soul has ever prayed to enter. A place of revelation, but also a place where the truth is so raw it can tear through the soul. I arrived not with sight, but with awareness. A city emerged. It had no name, but I knew it was the Middle East. I knew, even though no one told me. The smell of dust. The tension hung in the air like a taut bowstring ready to snap. Every step, every breath, every glance exchanged between people was steeped in fear. Not fear of dying, but fear of losing the one thing they had never truly possessed, peace. I saw an Iranian mother cradling her newborn in an underground shelter. Not far from her, I saw an Israeli soldier wiping down his rifle, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed in a corner of the room as if pleading for forgiveness from his conscience. I saw children from both sides dreaming of games they could never play in real life, because playgrounds no longer existed. I saw politicians behind bulletproof glass signing papers with their hands, while their hearts had turned to stone long ago. I asked the voice, "Is this the present or the future?" And God replied not with words, but with vision. I saw a map of the world, red fault lines igniting like cracks across dry ground. I saw nuclear weapons no longer spoken of as threats, but calculated coldly and rationally as inevitable options. I saw buttons lying beneath the fingers of men who believed God had already chosen their side. I cried out from deep within, "God, why are you showing me this? Who am I in the war of nations?" And that's when I heard Him for the first time with sound. It didn't echo, it whispered, but it pierced straight to my marrow. "Diana, it is the silence of the faithful that is killing peace." It felt like being struck by an invisible hand. Every sermon I had preached, every word I had written, every comforting phrase I had ever offered to others shattered in an instant. I had prayed for peace, but I had never lived as though I bore any responsibility for it. I had thought faith was about saving my soul, but here, before God, I understood, faith is meant to save each other, not just through prayer, but through action. And then I was shown one final image. A small room, deep within the Vatican. A man dressed in white was sitting at a simple desk, handwriting a message with shaky but determined strokes. I didn't know his name, but when he read aloud the words he had just written, I knew he was the Pope. And the sentence he spoke captured the heart of everything I had just witnessed. No one has the right to threaten the existence of another. All nations are morally bound to pursue peace, initiate paths of reconciliation, and uphold solutions that protect both the security and dignity of all people. I collapsed. My soul felt heavier than it had ever known light. I had thought I understood God, but in that moment, I realized I was only a beginner, a student standing before the greatest teacher the universe has ever known, and I was not yet allowed to leave the lesson. Have you ever wondered what God would teach a nun who believed she was already good enough? What came next was no longer a vision. It was a direct conversation between me and the one who created both the light and the darkness. And he was not as gentle as I once believed. I didn't see his face, but I knew he was there. Not in front of me, not behind me, but everywhere. His presence settled over my soul like a heavy blanket, not to comfort, but to keep me from running, to keep me from hiding. I could no longer escape into scripture, into ritual, into familiar commandments. All of it went silent. There was only me. And him. God didn't ask what I feared. He didn't ask if I wanted to stay or return. He simply looked into the parts of myself I had hidden, even from me. Then he asked, "Have you ever truly forgiven?" I couldn't answer. I had preached about forgiveness. I had said forgiveness sets the soul free. But forgive whom? Those who murder the innocent? Those who start wars? Those nations that treat people like tools? He continued without pause. Have you ever stopped judging? I felt like I was being peeled open, layer by layer. The layer of being a nun. The layer of education. The layer of moral posture. The layer of role. The layer of fear. What was left? A bare soul. I began to weep. Not from pain, but from shame. I had believed I was a good person. But standing in front of truth, every good I had was just a neatly ironed costume, not a living heart. God wasn't angry. He didn't scold. But his silence was the greatest mirror. He showed me the moments I turned away when I could have spoken up. The times I chose silence to keep the peace instead of standing for the truth. He showed me the eyes of a Palestinian boy I once saw on television, staring into the lens as if screaming, "Why are the adults silent?" I screamed back in my soul, "I don't know what to do. I'm just a small nun. I'm not a president. I'm not a leader. I'm not the one with the button." But he did not accept that excuse. This time, he spoke with a voice like fire. "You are the soul I created. You are the light I breathed into the world. So why do you keep locking that light behind the walls of religion?" I choked up. I had never heard anyone speak to me like that. God didn't preach. He didn't reason. He simply brought me face to face with the deepest layer of honesty within myself. And only there, at the raw edge of truth, did he begin to teach. Not through scripture, but through vision. He showed me a world where people chose love over fear. He showed me a negotiation that didn't take place in a government chamber, but in the heart of every human being. He showed me a map with no borders, where enemies called each other by name. Then he asked me to repeat 3 things. I didn't understand why, but I obeyed. And with each repetition, it felt as if a new heartbeat was added to my chest. First, no one has the right to threaten another's existence. Second, life is sacred, even in our brokenness. Third, brotherhood is a weapon more powerful than any nuclear force. I looked up, and for the first time, I saw the light. Not blinding, not dazzling, but warm, like the soft morning sun on the face of a mother who has just given birth. I thought I was about to be taken away, but God only whispered, "Not yet. There's one more thing you must understand before you return to the world." Have you ever wondered why some people come back from the dead completely transformed? I'm about to share the final truth God revealed to me, the truth that changed everything I thought I believed. And it may change you too. I thought I had been forgiven. I thought I had finished learning. I thought that light was a reward for what I had just endured. But as always, God did not follow my expectations. That light was not the destination. It was a doorway. And when I stepped through it, I realized the real lesson was only beginning. There was no more war, no more maps, no more images. Just a space, formless but thick, where every thought took shape, where there was no place to hide. I was no longer watching. I was being shown. And what I was shown was myself. Not the me in a habit, not me giving sermons, but the me in my quietest moments. When no one was watching, when there was no audience, when it was just God and the truth. I saw myself walk past a homeless man without saying a word. I saw myself read headlines about Syria, Yemen, and Iran, then go on eating lunch like nothing had happened. I saw myself sitting in silence while a coworker joked about Muslims. I didn't commit evil, but I let it pass. Silent, detached, polished, like a proper nun. I couldn't take it anymore. I said in the depth of my soul, I am a terrible child of God. But he didn't nod. He didn't agree. He simply asked me again, then, who will you be when you return? I didn't know how to answer. I thought my life was complete. I thought death was the end. But here, in this light where no lie could survive, I understood. Life only truly begins when you finally know what you must live for. Then God showed me one final image. A chair. Empty. In a makeshift classroom. A child with curly hair and a dust-covered face sat alone, holding a torn book. There was no chalkboard, no teacher, no flag hanging behind him. But he was learning. Learning as if the fate of the entire world depended on it. And God asked me, will you dare to live in a way that keeps this chair from being empty? I wept. Not out of pity, but because I finally saw the truth. I had lived as if those children were not mine. I had believed the sermons about the family of humanity. But I had not truly lived as if every child were my sibling. And when I realized that, the light around me began to shift. Softer, wider, as if something new was opening. Something I had never dared to hope for. I didn't ask to return to the world. But he said, you must go back. Not to tell the story, but to live the story. To be a reminder. Not through preaching, but through presence. Then he laid his hand on me. I felt no touch, but I knew it was real. Like wind. Like breath. Like the first heartbeat after silence. And I returned. How do you think a person lives after they have stood before God? I opened my eyes. There were no angelic choirs. No blinding light. Just the pale ceiling of a hospital room and the steady beep of a heart monitor, ticking like a clock testing the patience of life itself. A nurse rushed in. A doctor called my name in a panic. But I couldn't hear them. All I heard were 3 sentences echoing over and over in my soul, like bells tolling through the silence. No one has the right to threaten another's existence. Life is sacred, even when we fail. Brotherhood is a weapon more powerful than any nuclear force. They told me my heart had stopped for more than 7 minutes. They said I was lucky, but I didn't feel saved. I felt summoned, given a mission without instructions, without a map, without a guide. Only one thing was clear. I could never live the way I did before. I left the convent, not because I lost my faith, but because my faith had outgrown its walls. I went to places I used to fear. I spoke truths I used to avoid. I listened to voices I once thought had no place in my idea of faith. I wrote letters to politicians. I embraced people who had once rejected religion. I learned Arabic. I joined a volunteer classroom for immigrant children. I no longer preached. I simply showed up, not to change the world, but to stop turning away from it. One day, during a small gathering in an old church, I read aloud the passage from the Pope that I had once heard in the realm of light. The room fell silent. No one clapped. But an elderly woman stepped forward, took my hand in hers, tears streaming down her cheeks, and said, "Thank you. So God is still here." I smiled. I didn't answer, because I knew God never left. It's only we who turn away. I didn't return to tell a story about death. I came back to live differently. Every day, every choice, every glance, every silence, I live as if the light is watching. And you reading or listening to these words, you don't need to die to see what I saw. But you will need something far more courageous than facing death. You will need the courage to live as if peace begins with you. The question isn't whether you believe me. The question is, how will you live after hearing this?